Ooh, I'm so excited for this next. Thank you, everyone who's here now. Thanks for being here on time. We actually have a lot less time than is ideal. I generally, so I've taken a year-long course and condensed it into a weekend, a full weekend kind of immersion workshop. And then I've taken that weekend immersion workshop and condensed it down to a 6-hour workshop. And then I've taken that 6-hour workshop and condensed it down into the 90 minutes that we get to have together. And the beginning will be just an overview. And then I plan to share some content, and I'm choosing to share it because I don't want to keep it behind like a payment fence or something. I want to give everyone here something really valuable in this session. And as people are arriving and as we get going, I'd like to do a little exercise to help us all get present. So I want to invite you to get comfortable wherever you are. And this is, if you've been in workshops with me before, it's just 3 breaths that I'll walk us through what we're going to be doing. So I just invite you to get comfortable. And we're going to take a deep breath together. And on the exhale, on this first exhale, we'll let go of everything from the past. Here we go. Okay, now we'll take a second deep breath together. And on this exhale, we're going to let go of everything from the future. Appointments, things coming up, concerns, all that stuff. We're going to let all that stuff go on this next exhale. Here we go. Okay, we'll take a third deep breath together. And on this exhale, we're going to get really present in the here and now. Here we go. All right. If you have your camera off, that's totally fine. You're at choice. And I invite you to turn it on so that we're all feeling more connected with each other. And your presence really contributes to whoever is presenting, whether it's me or in a different session. And you're at choice, and I respect your choice to keep your camera off too, even if I would love to see you. So we're talking about visioning and manifesting and lifestyle design. These terms are not exactly the same thing, but I use them more or less interchangeably. Kalapa is a word from Sanskrit that means bundle. And some people here have heard my story and some people haven't. And some people here have probably heard it more times than they're interested in. I'm looking at David. And, but I had a huge freak out moment in my teens. I saw the writing on the wall. We're in the biggest extinction period since the dinosaurs. We're destroying our very own life support systems. We're bringing down a lot of other species with us. We're destroying ecosystems. We're destroying indigenous cultures. And it's all because we have an economy based on more. We have a philosophy of separation. We have a lot of us versus them. But essentially, we have some fundamental questions that are, for which our cultural answers are insufficient. And if we really want to create long-lasting positive change, we need to re-ask and redefine the answers to these questions. The first question is, who are we? Are we just consumers? Are we citizens who have a right to remain silent and a right to refuse to vote? Are we Democrats and Republicans? Who are we? Who are we as human beings? The second question is, what is the good life? Is it just accumulating more stuff? Is that the good life? And thirdly, what is our shared destiny on this blue ball hurtling through space? There is no planet B. So this freak out moment I experienced in my teens led me to research what are the most effective practices, quote unquote, best practices for living in harmony within ourselves, with each other, and with the planet. That search started in 1987. So it's been over 30 years. And the search for those tools gave me a big old heap of tools that was just like this jumble. And serendipitously, gratefully, I had an insight that showed me how all these tools distribute very elegantly along a model called the 8 Shields model, which I did a presentation on in the first evening. That's basically based in the natural world. It's based on the compass rose, north, south, east, west, and the corners. And so that's the visual element. And I'm going to show you that in a second. So I'm going to start a screen share here. Give me just a moment. I don't want to open the wrong one. Aha, here you are. There you see our logo toward the bottom has the arrows there that represent the 8 directions. Kalapa is also a word in, it's from Sanskrit, and in the Buddha's cosmology, it was also the smallest particle of matter, kind of like a subatomic particle. So thanks to Bob Paltrow, that made it into our logo too. All right, moving on. The 8 modules that we have in Kalapa, they're all comprised of 5 things, because I want to clarify, Kalapa is for a particular group of people. The people that we reach out to don't have a demographic. They don't have a particular, age, sex, race, gender. They have what marketers call psychographics, so psychological indicators. So the people we reach out to have 2 of these psychological indicators that show up as a 2 major commitments. One is the commitment to lifelong learning and growing, right? Personal growth and development. Like, I'm working on myself. That learning and growing never stops. And the second major commitment is that I'm committed to being of service, making a positive difference, having a positive impact. So when people have both those commitments, that's who we're reaching out to. And I call this group positive change agents, but they go by other names: change makers, cultural creatives, evolutionaries. And from my perspective, people who want to create a difference in the world need these 5 things to really be effective. And every one of our 8 modules contains these 5 things in it. We need powerful mindsets, because this is how we sabotage ourselves. This is where we get inspired about something, but then we don't motivate and make it happen. Or we have frameworks of the world that don't actually match the world. Like, it's like walking around with an outdated, like a paper map printed in 1905. It's not going to match the reality on the ground. So mindsets are key. The next is tools. And by tools, I mean processes, methodologies, modalities. The New Age movement gave us hundreds of great tools and thousands of crappy ones. So we need to really be good at discerning what are really effective tools. But having a tool is one thing, and being skillful with a tool is another. So we also need skills. If you show me a hammer and I've never used one and I bend the first 3 nails, I could conclude that hammers are not effective, but it's actually my skill level with them. That's the limitation in that case. Mindsets, tools, skills. We also need resources. This could be financial resources. A lot of projects that are amazing and wonderful struggle because they don't have enough financial resources. But this could also be people resources. It could be informational resources. It could be other kinds of resources. And the fifth thing that we need is community. We need to stop buying into this myth that we need to go it alone. And for people who want to create a positive difference, we're swimming against the current of conventional culture. And where I live in the Pacific Northwest, we have a metaphor for this in the natural world. When you see salmon swimming upstream to go lay eggs, and what you'll notice is they never swim upstream alone. So we do need each other. So these are the big five, and they exist inside each of the 8 modules of Kalapa. Now this is something that will get revised by a visual artist. This is just my version. But you'll see 2 concentric rings. The red one is core competencies, and the green one is best practices. I did a whole introduction to this when I did 8 Shields model and then Kalapa. But you'll notice that each module has a core competency and then 1 or more best practices. So in the East, the core competency is interpersonal effectiveness, and a best practice is nonviolent communication. In the Southeast, core competency has to do with transforming your relationship with visioning and manifesting, and intentionally designing the lifestyle that's going to support you to make the biggest difference you can. If you live in an apartment building with a rock band upstairs, it's going to be really hard maybe to get the kind of rest, or if you have to walk miles to get your water. There are a lot of things, there are a lot of ways that we set up our lifestyle that doesn't support us, so we can be intentional about that. Today's presentation is in the Southeast. In the South, the work is around money. In the Southwest, the work is around nature and the earth. In the West, the work is around community, building and sustaining community. In the Northwest, it's about deep transformation, grief work, ancestral healing. In the North, it's about right understanding. It's about having a big picture comprehension of how things actually fit together and work in the world. It's like having a mental map that's current for how the world works. And I did an introduction to Ken Wilber's integral framework yesterday. And we also did the cosmic walk guided meditation. Both of these actually exist in the North in this model. In the Northeast, we have personal practice. And so a lot of the people here at this event actually just went through a whole year-long cycle where a year ago on winter solstice, we started here. And then early February, we went to the Northeast and worked on personal practice. And that's where we got to see David do his, some of the movement practices that he was referring to today in his session. And like that, we went around the whole wheel and introduced people to each of these things, and had also an integration session, and had community building and support calls. And we'll be starting another cycle right at the end of January, early February, 2021. So we'll be going around the wheel and looking at all these things. Today's presentation is just in the Southeast. The other thing we're doing in Kalapa is we're spending an entire year in each direction. So 2020, the theme was the East. So Tess and I just completed a 9-month course in nonviolent communication. I'm a certified trainer in NVC, for those of you who weren't aware of that. 2021, we're going to spend a whole year in the Southeast. 2022, we're going to spend a whole year in the South. 2023, we're going to spend a whole year in the Southwest, like that. So that gives us an 8-year cycle. And so you probably won't hear me say I'm bored, ever. Okay, moving right along. This is the bigger picture. This is the context. Kalapa really started out as this curriculum, and it's since grown into a really cool, really fun learning community as well. And I'm just delighted because positive change agents need more community, and and we all do. So let's just keep moving here. So I'm just going to run through this pretty quickly so that we have plenty of time for our exercise today. I'm just going to let you read these on your own. Actually, some people might be only on audio, so I'll read them. Make lifelong learning and growing a commitment or an orientation for your life. Trust your intuition. There's so many steps to this. Like, it's so easy to say, trust your intuition, but first I need to discern which voice is my fear and which voice is my intuition and what are some of the other voices. And once I identify my intuition, then like learning to listen to it. And then practicing so that I learn to trust it. And then obeying it blindly. Surrendering to a certain intelligence that's coming through. Notice your limiting beliefs and be willing to transform them. I will not let old limiting beliefs limit me is in itself an empowering mindset. Let blue sky thinking be what it is. Like when it's time to brainstorm, remember to prioritize quantity and the details of how to implement come later. So that's a mindset that I bring to the creative process. If I only want good ideas, I'm gonna pre-filter so much that I won't get those gems. I need to brainstorm 100 things, and out of that, I'll get 3 gems. The old paradigm is predict and control. I want to predict all the things that might get in the way so that I can control an outcome. But instead, we can use dynamic steering. One of the principles in dynamic steering is this is something I do, is I tend to postpone decisions, not until the last moment, but until the last responsible moment. Postpone decisions until the last responsible moment. That allows time for new information to come in. If I'm doing predict and control, I don't want new information to come in. It's just going to throw off my rigid plan. So dynamic steering, even if you're driving in a straight line, you're still adjusting a little bit, or riding your bike in a straight line. There's still constant adjustments. That's dynamic steering. Self-connection and self-care can be a huge act of service to the larger whole. The mindset of being of service. In my early teens, I saw so many issues and problems in society. I wanted to escape. I wanted to leave. I wanted to do something different. And then I realized that actually I need to get involved and help to transform it. Because running away or fantasizing about my private island in the Pacific doesn't help anybody. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. Also known as be willing to take imperfect action. I'm a recovering perfectionist, so this used to slow me down a lot. Learn to get comfortable with discomfort. Let me tell you something one of my mentors told me. Your deepest yearnings lie outside of your comfort zone. Your deepest yearnings lie outside of your comfort zone. So expanding your comfort zone means learning how to get comfortable in discomfort. Sometimes when you're not clear, you can get paralyzed or frozen. But here's another expression I like: action begets clarity. So sometimes we just need to get moving because the path opens up as we walk it. I can be looking and not see the path. I've actually had this experience where I could only see 2 feet in front of me. And when I walked those 2 feet, then I could see where the path went, but I could only see 2 feet or 3 feet. And so I would need to walk that little bit, and then I would see where the path would open up. And sometimes life is like that. We don't have the total map and the total route, but there's a certain stretch that's clear. So walk that stretch because you'll have a different perspective when you get to that point. Big picture context. Yesterday we did the cosmic walk. Who are you? This is one of the top 3 pieces of advice I've ever gotten. Thank you, Douglas Bullock. Dream big and go for it. And that's why we're having the conversation we're having. I like to ask myself this sometimes. How good are you willing to let it get? Or its close cousin, how good can you stand it? Some of us can't, when it starts to get good, we can't stand it. So we sabotage it. Minimizing regrets. This is huge. Next time you're at a really tough crossroads and not knowing if you want to go this way or that way, you can do a meditation, a type of like visualization meditation where you imagine yourself on your deathbed and you look back at this moment in time and you run down every path of that crossroads, asking yourself from the vantage point of your deathbed, if I did that, would I regret it? If I did that, would I regret it? If I tried that and it totally failed, would I regret it? Because at the end of the day, I mean, we all came in with a two-way ticket, right? And when it's your turn, you probably want to have the least regrets possible. So making peace with your death is another part of it. I don't think death is anything to be afraid of. I think it's just as natural as being born and eating and pooping. And it's just, I don't see life and death as opposites. I see birth and death as opposite ends of a spectrum we call life, but it's totally a natural thing. Hollywood has inserted all these images in our heads of death being gory or gruesome or scary, or it doesn't have to be that way. It's a natural thing. Letting life live itself through you. I'm going to run out of time, so I'm just going to keep moving. But letting life live itself through you. Yes, Lena, I see you.
Could you actually go back? Because I was taking notes, but I didn't get that last bit. I'm just going to grab a screenshot if that's okay.
Totally. And I'm willing to share my slides as well.
That would be amazing.
So
I feel like I might be able to relax a little more if I didn't feel like it was just going to go away.
there's a great talk. There's a great talk on, it's a TED talk, and I couldn't tell you the author or the title. I think it has to do with stages of consciousness development. But I really enjoyed how this person articulated that first people have the stage of like to me, then by me, then through me. So life happens to me. I'm just a leaf at the mercy of the wind. I'm a victim. Life happens to me, right? Visioning and manifesting and lifestyle design isn't going to work if you're just a victim and you don't have agency. So then the next one is life happens by me. I can move things around. I can do something. I hammer a nail, or I move my cup to a different side of the desk. Now the universe is different. Like I have agency. I can actually do things and act. And this is where some of the tools we're talking about come in. But then instead of life happens by me, there's also life happens through me. How do I let life live itself through me? The closest way I can describe this is like when you're going to go to bed and you're starting to fall asleep and your body wants to roll this way and you roll this way, and maybe later your body wants to roll that way and you roll that. And you're not, I don't know anybody who overanalyzes, should I roll over? Or agonizes about like, should I put my arm there? No, you just do it. You just flow with it. So imagine your whole day could be like that. Even if it's calendars and planning or this phone call or that email, but I'm just flowing and I'm allowing life to live itself through me. I'm just going with it. That's a practice. It's a capacity, and it's also a mindset, because we remind ourselves to open to that possibility. Okay, this is the thing I was hoping to focus on. Discovering your life purpose and clarifying the vision for your ideal life. There's something here called the wheel of life. And in fact, the person who first introduced me to this is our next presenter, Ryan Eliason. Is that our next presenter? I think that's our next presenter. And he's awesome. He was my first business coach in 2006. I love Ryan. Anyway, there's a whole process, a whole methodology for how to take a large project and break it down into bite-sized pieces and to clarify your life's priorities. When I was in my 30s, I had a 40-year plan. And even in a 40-year plan, there's still what I need to do tomorrow and next week and next month and next year as part of that 40-year plan. So if you have a really big project, a really big vision, it's really helpful to know how to break it down into like bite-sized pieces or doable, actionable, this email, this phone call, whatever it is. There's a process I call the flower diagram process. It's actually based on the world's best-selling job hunting guide called What Color is Your Parachute? I used that book in the early 90s and found my dream job. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. And then when I decided to find land, I took his process and adapted it to the land search. And I taught it online and recorded it and now have it online as a course. In the launch to that online course, I reached out to the author of What Color is Your Parachute? And I interviewed him and his son as part of the launch for that. Since then, Richard Bowles has died, but he was 87 at the time. And the interview is still available for free somewhere on my website, or maybe it's on my YouTube channel. But it was a super cool interview. And I told him on that call, I said, you know, your book is actually a primer on visioning and manifesting disguised as a job hunting guide. And he said, I couldn't have put it better myself. Anyway, so we have a whole process, how to manifest just about anything you want. And I used it to find my dream place. And thanks to also this visioning and manifesting tool, that's one of the ways that Tess came into my life. Actually, each of us did a visioning process, actually, and then we kind of met. Okay, let's start with the wheel of life. Sorry, the resolution isn't so great. This is from an image, but I invite you to take a screenshot of this if you want, and I'm going to give you the instructions super briefly. I do have this as a PDF with instructions. So you take this, and then each of these areas of your life, you're going to give it a number from 1 to 10. 10 being like it couldn't be better. So the money part of my life, the career part of my life, friends and family part of my life. Be real with yourself. Where is it at on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being it couldn't be worse, 10 being it couldn't be better. Like that. So that's what you do. You go through here and you rate where they're at. Then you go through again and you write a paragraph, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentences. What would this area of my life look like if it was a 10? What would a 10 around fun and recreation look like? What would a 10 physical? So you create a mini vision statement for each of these. Then you pick one and go for it. Then pick another one. Then pick another one. And they'll start working complementarily. They'll start, things start synergizing. There's something called the green triangle that Ernest Kallenbach mentions, and he's the author of the Ecotopia books. And the green triangle has 3 points on it: health, money, and environment. And when you do something positive for one of them, it affects the other 2 positively. If you do something negative for one of them, it affects the other 2 negatively. So for example, when I used to smoke tobacco, right? That was bad for my bank account, bad for my health, not great for the environment. When I quit smoking, it affected all 3 positively: my health, the environment, and my bank account. So when you do something positive or negative for any of those 3, so these will start synergizing, but pick one. This is not about becoming like a Olympic decathlon gold medalist or anything. All right. So I want to stop the share for a moment. And we have about an hour. And some people came in after I mentioned that this is a distilled version of a much longer course and program. And so, but I'd like to make sure that we have enough time to give you something really valuable here. Before I jump into that, I just want to check to see if there are any questions or comments. I'm looking at the chat right now. Great.
So for the Alan, for the wheel of life, you said basically rate where you're at on a scale of 1 to 10,
For each
and then
one.
ask yourself for each one, and then ask yourself what it would look like if
Thank
it
you.
was a 10.
Let me clarify, because there's a subtle thing in the languaging that
Yeah.
I picked up on. It's not rating where you're at. You're not rating yourself. I just want to keep this totally out of any self-judgment, or
Yeah.
you're rating this area of my life. If it couldn't get any better, I'd give it a 10. If it couldn't get any worse, I'd give it a 1. So how does it feel? Maybe it's a 6. And
Not so
then,
much where you're at, how it feels.
yeah, or how is this area at, not how am I at?
Yeah. Okay.
I
Thank
want you
you.
to
I appreciate that
depersonalize
clarification.
it just a touch. And,
I
and,
needed that. Thank you.
and then yes, creating the mini vision of, for each one, yeah, what would this look like if it was a 10? How would it feel? And then that gives you sort of a compass orientation, right, of a direction to move in for each of those. But then if you work on all 8 areas, or however many there are, if you work on all of them at once, it can be quite overwhelming and movement might be slow. So I would recommend picking one and yeah, putting energy into that. Yeah. Yeah, you're not self-evaluating. This isn't, yeah, don't turn it into that. Any other questions or comments or feedback so far before we keep going? I guess I'm curious because almost everybody's camera is off. And so I don't have a sense of like who's actually present or not. But I would like to just get a show of hands, or you can click an emoji. I see you, Timothy. Thank you. I just want to get a sense. Um, yeah, thank you, Don. Where am I now compared to where I want to be in this particular area? So I'd love to see a show of hands, or maybe you could click an emoji at the bottom of your screen or something, for who really wants to move forward with um, learning this simple methodology for discovering your life purpose. Okay. And maybe you already know yours, but maybe it would be helpful to have a methodology that you could use with your clients or use with other people, that kind of thing. I know there's people here who work with others and help others. It's actually a multi-part process. So it's, first of all, discovering kind of like, what's my life purpose? And then the second part is, what's creating the vision for my ideal life, and then moving in that direction. Yeah. So Timothy, what are the other choices? Well, I could give you an overview of the flower diagram, but unfortunately we need even more time for that than for this, and we're already short on time for this. And we could also just have a discussion, and we could do like individual and group coaching and do like breakout rooms and things like that. But I didn't have all that planned out, and we could still do it, and I think it would work fine, but that would be another option. And I'm really hesitant to have a group process to decide, because that would take the rest of our time. How are you feeling about that, Timothy?
I had the impression that you were going to lay out some choices by the way you said who is interested in that. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. No, my impression was just to see how much energy there was in the room for the thing I had planned next. I'd like to see it. Is anybody not interested? I guess you can do self-care. You can do something different if you need to. Yeah, I'll just proceed with the plan because I got a lot of thumbs up and a lot of nodding. Okay. Well, we'll just get as far as we can in the time we have. That's how we'll do this. We were here. So we've got a few sections for this next part. We're going to do a little warm up, and we'll just do it in the large group. So If you don't have something to write on and with, I want to invite you to get something to write on and with. It could be a pen and paper. It could be right on your computer or tablet. But I'd like to give you a moment to get something to write on and with. Okay. So for the warm-up, imagine I have a magic wand and I make the full cycle of a day. In other words, how long it takes the Earth to do one full rotation on its axis. And I take 4 hours away. Suddenly the day is 20 hours instead of 24. What things would you take out of your life? And I'm going to give you 2 minutes to write. I'm setting my timer. The day is now 20 hours instead of 24 hours. You have 4 fewer hours in your day. What things would you take out of your life? 2 minutes starting now. You just lost 4 hours out of every day. What things do you take out? About a minute left. Thirty seconds. All right. So part of the purpose of today isn't that we're totally doing the completely thorough deep dive. You can start your answers to some of these things and then come back to them when it makes sense to you. I also recommend revisiting this once a year. You can pick a date, your birthday, winter solstice, New Year's Eve. You pick a date and put it in your calendar. Okay, next question. This is still part of the warm-up. If the full cycle of a day went from 24 to 28 hours, what would you add? I wave my magic wand, suddenly you have 4 extra hours in your day. What things would you add to your day? You have 2 minutes to write. Go. About 20 seconds left. You've got all this extra time. What things do you add? Okay, moving on. So this was our warm-up. I would love to have so much more time for discussion and small groups, and this is a really condensed session. So thanks for hanging in there with me. So let's talk about the questions around life purpose, and I'm going to give you a little more time to answer each of these. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. What do you do that feels effortless to you, almost like breathing? What do you do that feels effortless to you, almost like breathing? It's the kind of thing that, like, even when you're working hard at it, it feels like effortless effort. You know, it's just so easeful for you to do this thing, whatever it is. What do you do that feels effortless to you, almost like breathing? 5 minutes starting now.
I have a question about this.
Yes.
I'm mostly thinking of things that I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I love doing this thing, or I find pleasure in this, or whatever. Does it have to be neutral, like breathing, or is that the prompt, or is it also like things I find joy in?
Things that come so easily to you, they feel effortless.
Okay.
If you happen to enjoy them, if you happen to love them, but that's not the question.
Okay.
It's like, even if you're putting a lot of work into it, it still feels like effortless effort. For some people, it's public speaking. For other people, it's delivering a baby. For other people, it's fixing a bicycle. For some people, it might be going on a run. It could be anything. Big, small, important, unimportant, doesn't matter. It just, you have this ease about it. Two and a half minutes left. It could be thinking and philosophizing. It could be leading groups. It could be playing with kids. It could be cuddling. It could be anything. About 30 seconds left. Yeah, this section on life purpose has 3 questions. So this is the first one, and the answers to these questions function as signposts. And these questions together sort of triangulate and help you hone in on something that might approximate the why am I here? Here's question number 2, and you're gonna have another 5 minutes for this one. And this might be what you were asking, Indigo. What do you love so much that when you do it, time seems to slip away and you enter an almost timeless space? Like you just love this thing so much. What do you love, 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 love? 5 minutes. Do a brainstorm with yourself. What are the things you love? I'll share an insight in this moment. You actually don't get to choose what your truth is. You get to look inside and be honest about what you find there. We cover it up with like, oh, I shouldn't feel that, or I shouldn't want that, or the shame, or this story, or that, or what my mom said, or look inside. What do you love? And be honest about what you find there. 4.5 minutes. About 2 minutes left. What do you love so much that when you do it, you kind of lose track of time? Can you give yourself permission to love what you love? One minute. About 20 seconds left. All right. Question number 3. What have you accomplished? Big or small? But that feeling of satisfaction or sense of accomplishment is there. Again, we're not looking for like a big thing or that other people think it's important. It could be like, I trained my dog. I helped a little old lady cross the street. Big or small, that's not the question. What things have you done in your life that left you that sense of satisfaction, fulfillment, that sense of accomplishment? Big or small, we're not evaluating them. I just want to know what left you with that sense of accomplishment, that sense of satisfaction. 5 minutes. Brainstorm this. What have you accomplished in your life up to this point? Big or small? Three minutes. If you're done or this is going slowly for you, you can go back and review your answers to the other questions and see if there's anything you missed. Have you forgotten to look under any important rocks, nooks and crannies of your life? About a minute and a half left. Okay, about half a minute. And if you're done, I encourage you to go back and review your previous answers. Okay, so the next step includes reviewing your answers to what you wrote and then writing a draft statement of life purpose. For some people, the answers to these questions, acting as signposts, they point to something really clear. But for other people, it seems more challenging. How do these things fit together? What feels effortless and what I love and what I've accomplished, they seem sort of disparate. And that's not something to worry about or stress about. That provides you an amazing opportunity to see what is the overlap between these things and what is the common ground and how could they combine or synergize or complement each other. But you're going to write a draft statement, and I emphasize draft because it's not the be all end all. We're not going to etch this in stone and say you're done. But I do want you to give it a shot. Give it a draft. And then you're going to print it out in nice big letters and put it somewhere really obvious, like your bathroom mirror. Not the inside of your closet door where you won't see it. Hang it up somewhere visible. Yes, Lena.
What might a draft statement of life purpose sound like?
What would a draft statement of life purpose sound like?
Yeah, or what would a statement of life purpose even sound like?
Well, it's different. It's different for everybody. But it could be as general as I'm here to love people. That could be a statement of life purpose, right? Or it could be like I'm here to make sure that children are safe. Or, what I'm about is. But the cool thing is that the answers to these questions, like I said, work like signposts and they sort of triangulate, like pointing to something. And so sometimes we need to hang out with our answers to these questions for a little bit, hang out with the questions themselves. And sometimes we need to back off a little bit to give it space for something to arise instead of overthinking it. but it's just a draft. And that's the willingness to take imperfect action. You can redo it tomorrow. It's fine. Okay, I'm gonna give everybody 4 minutes to keep working on this. So as I mentioned something at the very beginning, and I think there were not everyone was here. I took a year-long program and distilled it into a weekend offering. And then I took that weekend offering and distilled it down into a 6-hour training. And this is the 90-minute version of that 6-hour training. So there's a lot we're not covering, and there's a lot that's sort of like data compression. So I guess I'd love to just get a sense of the temperature in the room, and I'm gonna ask for maybe a show of hands. I realize next time I do this, I'm gonna schedule it longer because sometimes the breakouts are so wonderful. So I'd love to see a show of hands of, did anybody have like a personal aha or a breakthrough or something, like discovered something new about yourself that you didn't know before? Cool, I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. At least 4. Yay. So glad. Who was a little bored, like, just honestly, like, I've done this so many times before. Okay. Thanks, Serena, for your honesty. Really appreciate that. Yeah, sometimes I speak to groups that are on all levels of whatever it is that we're working on. Learn something new. Yes, I see that, Cassie. Thank you. Well, since we have 20 minutes left, what I want to do is I just want to show you the next section so that you can either take a screenshot or write it down. And that is so cool, Melanie. And yeah, those kinds of discoveries, it's like you get to give yourself some kudos or just recognition, just like acknowledge yourself. Yeah, and allow yourself to celebrate it. It's super cool. Okay. So the next section, and I would have loved to have so much more time, right? We looked at these 3 questions. They point to something. We sort of draft, we create a draft of what that might be. And the next section has to do with vision. So I want to clarify something. And the metaphor, and Seth Godin was the first person I heard articulate it like this. He said the compass is more important than the map. In other words, the world out there could be changing and shifting and morphing. And it's changing so fast. But your interior compass orientation is so critical, so important. So that's part of what we just started doing, is really calibrating that interior compass. Like, what am I really here to do? Notice the warm-up questions really brought up all those things that you tell yourself you don't have time to do, or things that aren't a priority, but that you do anyway. So this is a further calibration of that compass, the vision piece. We're not going to actually do it now. I just want to show you the questions and what to do with them. But the first one is, you create a vision for your ideal life in 10 years. Get super detailed if you can. And even more importantly, see if you can feel it. Don't let it be just a mental, intellectual exercise. Allow yourself to really incorporate, like, ooh, what would that feel like? And really like the juiciness and excitement. Now, one of the mindsets that we bring to the visioning is, I want to create the vision of paradise times 4. Now, there's a balance here, because we want to dream big and go for it, but we also want it to be realistic enough that it's achievable. And sometimes we underestimate what's really achievable. So just let yourself hear, what would be your ideal life in 10 years? And this 10-year vision never happens, in the sense that the 10-year planning horizon is always 10 years out. I'll come back to that point. But the second part you do here is then your 3-year vision. Where would you need to be in 3 years that's aligned with that 10-year vision? Like, what would you be doing? Who would you be with? Where would you be living? What are your activities? What's your lifestyle like? And really like feel it, like see if you can create that vibration in your body. So that you're magnetizing these things to you, or you're just more tuned into it. There's a part of the brain called the reticular activating system, and it helps us choose what's important and what's not important, what to pay attention to, what not to pay attention to. And if you've ever been in the position where you're, say, for example, you're looking for a new car, let's say, and let's say that you're, at the time you were interested in a Subaru, and then suddenly you see Subarus everywhere. Have you had that experience? I saw a few people nodding. Yeah, that's the reticular activating system. Like, we hone it to tune into something, and then we start to see more of that. That's why I have a gratitude practice, because I think that the things we're grateful for, we tend to magnetize more of that in our lives. And what you appreciate appreciates, as in increasing in value. So anyway, 10-year vision, 3-year vision, and then 1-year vision. Where would you need to be in 1 year? Now this is not a 1-year plan. This is a description of a year from now. This is what my life will be like. That's in alignment with the 3-year vision and the 10-year vision. We have this trajectory. So here's the actual assignment. You ask yourself the life purpose questions, and you ask yourself these vision questions once a year. Revisit it, because you get to ask yourself, is this 10-year vision still true for me? It might have changed. But by revisiting this every year, you'll notice the 10-year planning horizon is always 10 years out. This is primarily, look, we can only live in the present moment. There's this ever-changing slice of now. That's where we live. But you're calibrating your compass. You're creating this interior clarity of like, ooh, yeah, that way. So that's the assignment, is you revisit these questions once a year. This is a teeny part of our Southeast module, and this is where we start. Actually, when we do Lifestyle Design Lab, we're going to spend some time on mindsets first, so that we're not getting in our own way when we get to this part. See, once my life purpose and my ideal life vision is clear, that's a great time to ask, what do I want to manifest next? Or what do I want to do next? But if I don't even have my interior compass orientation clear, asking that question, you know, it might depend on the moment of the day and which way I'm facing. But having that interior compass clear, then we bring in the flower diagram process to manifest other things. Or that's when we bring in the, how do you take a large vision and break it down into bite-sized pieces? In Lifestyle Design Lab, we're gonna spend the first 10 weeks front loading with tools. So we're gonna do this probably again. We will do it in that group. It'll be a different group of people, but this is just one of the pieces. But after the first 10 weeks, once everyone has the tools, the modalities, then we're gonna start the masterminding process. And a mastermind group is peer coaching and mentoring. It's where people support each other in creating what they want to create. So just moving on here, then we get into a plan. And that's when we get into what are known as SMART goals. SMART is an acronym. And different people actually give the letters in SMART different words. This is one version. If your goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, that means that they align with your life purpose or your vision. And time-bound, meaning I'm gonna give this a certain time frame, deadline. There are some things that are really high priority, but I'm okay if they happen in 5 years. And there's other things that I want to happen next week. That's part of the breaking down a large vision into bite-sized pieces. But you take your 1-year vision, and that's when you create the 1-year plan. So where do I need to be in a year? And then backcasting from there. What will I need to have done in 9 months, in 6 months, in 3 months? And I can start planning it out. I want to be upfront with you that I'm a big fan of planning, but I'm not a big fan of plans. Once we have a plan, we tend to get rigid about it, and we don't want to allow new information to come in, or we get into predict and control instead of dynamic steering. I think the planning process gives us a lot of clarity. It's super useful. So I'm a big fan of planning, even if I'm not a big fan of plans. Let's see, I lost my pointer here. I see that there's something in the chat, but I can't access it at this moment. So I'll just keep moving here.
Just admiration.
Oh, okay, that was from you. Okay, cool. Thank you.
From you. I love that, being a big fan of planning, but not of plans. I really appreciate that distinction.
Yeah.
The differences in those.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. Time blocking means I just put it in my calendar. Like I actually set aside time to focus on the things that I say are important to me.
Can you say that one little part again about predictive control or predictive steering, how you said it?
Yeah, so it's contrasting two different approaches. In a way, they're two different paradigms. One is predict and control, where I try to predict all the factors that might show up or might come in so that I can control an outcome. Versus dynamic steering, in which I postpone decisions not until the last moment, but until the last responsible moment. So I tend to postpone decisions until the last responsible moment in order to create space for new information to come in. Because even if you're riding your bike or driving in a straight line, you're still kind of making constant small adjustments. And dynamic steering is like that. So instead of predict and control, where I can become really rigid with my plan, instead I'm doing dynamic steering. And so I treat plans as something that's alive and morphs constantly. Okay, some other tools, right? We talked about these already. Just a second, I wanna, how to take a large vision or project and break it down into doable bite-sized pieces. The flower diagram process. This is how I found my dream property. I started the search in 1998. It took me a few years, but I found it and I've lived there since. And, you know, this isn't to sell you on something. This is to offer you, if you're super stoked about something like this and it would serve you, then you can check it out. After the bit.ly, it's Lifestyle Design 21. And I think that is case sensitive. So all lowercase, bit.ly Lifestyle Design 21. And that starts January 6th, although we are going to leave the enrollment open for some time after that for people to join as we go. But once we form the mastermind groups, we're going to close enrollment so that we can just be focused for the second, 2/3 of 2021. So if you have something you've been sitting on that doesn't let you sleep, or this persistent thing that just keeps coming back, and you think, this might be your time, then, you actually can't sign up for Lifestyle Design Lab. You can sign up for a question and answer call, because we're actually being selective. I think everybody in this weekend, it would be probably a great match, but we're wanting to filter out people who would not be a great match. So so we have a Q&A call, and then you can ask us questions, we can ask you questions, and just make sure that it's a good match. So at that URL, you actually can't sign up for the course, but you can sign up for one of several Q&A calls that we have coming up. And our early registration special ends December 23rd at midnight Pacific time, I believe. Okay, stopping the share. Come on, computer. All right. Oh, thanks, Don, for reminding us. I would love feedback, questions. Our session officially ends in 5 minutes, although we have a half-hour buffer. Although personally, I'll have about a 15-minute buffer. I can go until 4:15 Pacific, because I'm gonna show up at our next presenter's room and make myself available for tech setup and breakout rooms and that kind of thing for Ryan Eliason. And after that, it's like music and the dance party, and I'm super curious to see what DJ JD is gonna do in terms of silly sound yoga. All right, and then the group we had on our first evening, Revivify, they're coming back. Burke and Josephine, before the DJ dance party. Okay, Mike's, just jump in. Go ahead, Serena.
Hey, this is Serena. I raised my hand because it's true that I got a little bored during that exercise, but also I'm never bored with things that you're leading, just ever. And the reason I was a little bored with it, because you've done it with me before. So in that, I wanted to share too that I had this feeling of there's one more question, another piece to it, and then you brought in the my ideal life in 10 years exercise, and in 3 years and 1 year. And I feel like when I do that, I'll probably get that other piece. But
Yeah.
also, I just had this sense of something that might be different. It might be in between those pieces. Something about taking my information from the questions about
Life purpose questions.
yeah, and then I don't even have the words for it, but I can feel it, so I'm just going to share the feeling I have, and maybe something will come of it someday. It's something about journaling a bit on not just what I see in myself about those things that are easy and fun, but it's something about connecting it to others and the way that I've heard others give feedback to me about what my impact is on others according to the feedback I've gotten from others, that kind of thing.
I think that's beautiful, and I think that would be a great way to complement this. And one idea that comes up is to actually pick people from different periods of your life. So somebody who knew you in grade school, and somebody who knew you in high school, and somebody who knew you in your early 20s, and you know, just pick a few people and ask them all the same questions and see what kind of patterns start to show up.
A lot of those people I'd have to ask in my head, but I think it could still work since I don't have access to them in real life. But
I understand.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Thank you. And then
Mhm.
I also
Thank you
wanted to share dynamic steering. I like how you take the idea of shifting from prediction and control to dynamic steering and life living through you.
Yeah.
And it caught me that dynamic steering is a different way of controlling. It's not really like giving up control. You're still steering.
Yeah.
You're just being flexible and attuned to what's happening instead of rigid.
In relationship.
Can you say a little more about that in relationship?
Yeah, because I'm interacting with the world around me, including people and things. But that's what dynamic steering is I'm allowing new information to come in. I'm allowing my senses to be open as, so I'm doing something this way, and then Tess might give me feedback like, you know, that might not work so well for me. And so then I can adjust accordingly, right? So in relationship with the world around us, including other
Oh,
beings.
so that actually brings in the piece that I was just
Yeah.
addressing in the other. That's cool. Thank you. Thanks, Ellen.
Thank you too. Yeah, and it makes sense that you were a little bit board because we have done this before. Serena was part of our 2020 cycle in Kalapa. So I think we spent like 7 hours on this stuff between all three calls in that module. So
And I'll just throw in that that was huge last year. I was not bored whatsoever when I did this the first time.
yeah.
And it's made a huge difference in my life and totally changed my business and everything. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, you're so much more doing your thing, what you need to be doing. Yeah, totally. Thanks, Serena.
Can I jump in?
Please.
Thank you for the science. I love the scientific connection that you brought, to all of this. One of the things that I've really learned is that I kind of need the evidence to back it up. So I've done a lot of research on my own as far as like the power of visualization and the brain and how it works. Basically, it tricks our bodies into thinking we're already doing something that we're visioning. And I love that. I actually didn't have the reticular activating system. I didn't have that written down, but I knew that there was these formations that happen and these connections that happen when we visualize. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you too. Yeah, sometimes I've heard it referred to as the reticular filter, but it's all the reticular activating system. Thank you, Katie. More feedback or questions or cool. I see some comments in the chat as well. Thank you. Yeah, go for it, Angela.
Amy, I see your hand up too, and I've spoken a lot, so I'll wait till you go. You sure? Okay. Yeah, thank you, Ellen. Just so wonderful. I have a question because I have such similar visions and things I've come to, and I feel so aligned with this conference because of that. And when you were speaking about the peer coaching and mentoring, it's a big part of what I long to be doing, like to share. I've also developed so many skills over so much of study and a lifetime of personal healing from really difficult places, and internal family systems is a huge part of my skill set that I love.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to teach, like spiritual skills, psychic skills, nonviolent communication, all the big things that have helped me. But I have a lot of questions about how to do that at, because I know my own studies it's been vast to learn certain skills. It's not like just the drop of the hat. And then help people learn how to do that with each other. It's involved. So I'm wondering your thoughts about that and how to help people learn these kinds of skills, but in ways that are really effective, and work with shadow, because there's so much shadow material and then people can really hurt one another. And how do you manage all that?
Yeah. So what's the question exactly, Angela?
Good question. How do you empower people to work with one another in a peer mentoring format, and help them, develop skills to do that, and get going with all of that, when, in my experience, it really takes a while to learn the subtleties of working with shadow and our own, ways that we have our own growth to do. And
Yeah.
how do you balance that?
So how do I facilitate people working constructively with each other when there's so much crap that can get in the way? Okay, got it. Well, first of all, there's not a prerequisite that you have to deal with all your crap before you can work well with others, or before you can join a course like Lifestyle Design Lab. That's not a prerequisite. So when stuff comes to the surface, we deal with it in that moment. We work with it in that moment. But that's one of the reasons why Kalapa, the year-long cycle, covers all those directions. And then the Northeast, we're looking at integrated personal practice, which includes shadow work. I'm not an expert in shadow work. I don't teach that, but I want to bring in experts in all these different directions who can facilitate different things. That's what we had 2 different workshops, at least 2, in this weekend that dealt with grief, from people who are more experts in it than I am. So it's not a prerequisite that people deal with their stuff. The other thing is that when people have shared intentions and shared values, that helps a lot, because if we already have the shared intention that we're working on our stuff, and we already have the shared intention that we're going to work together, then that helps us deal with the stuff that comes up when it comes up. And thirdly, this is the other reason why people can't sign up for Lifestyle Design Lab. They can only sign up for a Q&A call. And if we're all like, yes, if it's a mutual yes, then you're invited to sign up. Because there are people who would sink the ship for the whole group if I let them in that course, because frankly, they may not be ready. So that's the other thing I do. But I think the shared intentions and shared values goes a really long way. And yeah, certainly, personal practice and shadow work as part of that is built into Kalapa as a curriculum. Thanks, Angela. Questions, input, feedback. Oh, Laura.
Hi, aloha. I did want to just also share that I did put in the chat that I did take the Kalapa 2020 program, and I intending to take the Lifestyle Design Lab as well. And I've known Alan and his programs in NBC since 2008, when I was raising my daughter, and the NBC program helped me so much with just communicating with my teenage daughter at the time. And I was very passionate about bringing forth an empowerment training program and in being a part of this style of learning then. And I really had to take a break just for my own tending to raising my child. And so I've got back in connection now that my daughter's 22, and on her own, I was able to use the Kalapa class as a way to rediscover myself and find who I am now that I'm not focused on just being a mom anymore. So that's why I'm looking forward to continue on working with Ellen, because I think it's a process and it's a practice, and being around like-minded people that can hold you in a safe place to create that voice inside of you and that vision. It's a really safe place, and I just have gotten so much out of it that has made me a stronger person, even to just speak out today in this call. If those of you who know me know that I struggle with this, so I would just encourage any ways that you can just have that support and community around you. I think that's a really big factor for me. So thank you, Alan, and to all the people who have helped me in your classes.
Thanks, Laura. Okay, I think I saw Don's hand too, and then Amy. Oh, Amy's been waiting a little bit too. Whoever, we have time for both of you.
Okie doke. I just want to share how, even though I was coming back from my walk and getting home and trying to find a way to something to write with, so I didn't even give the questions like full attention. I like kind of sped through them, which maybe was helpful because I could try to spend 3 hours on every one of them. How fun. I was laughing out loud with tears streaming down my eyes about how it was such an affirmation of the things, like how the things came together. It's like, of course that, like, and the path that I'm on, but to have the affirmation from doing those questions was really huge for me. And I have a question about thinking through the vision.
Hold on,
Vision
before
and
you ask your
plan.
question, Amy.
I realized I have yeah.
I just wanted to take in the first part fully before you go to your question.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm ready.
Oh my God, that feels so good. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I'm like, oh, we don't have much time. I better say it fast. Yeah, that was really exciting. Thank you. Yeah, it was big actually. And then which led it makes it pretty easy for me to do the vision part because I've kind of in process with that already, and I felt this real sadness well up inside of me getting to the plan part. My experience right now is that there's a lot of things that are really difficult for me to do.
Yeah.
That are part of clearing the space to really live the vision. Like there's no doubt about the vision. And just wondering if you have thoughts from your experience personally or guiding people about that.
Yes. And they correspond to the mindset piece. I'll leave you with 2 right now that are coming up for me. Well, they're more than 2, but first of all, be gentle with yourself. Be as gentle and kind with yourself as I know you are with others. So I know you outside of this event, so I know how you are with people. So treat Amy with as much like tenderness and be gentle with yourself. The other thing I would put out there is that, you know, when it feels sort of like that overwhelming, or there's just so much stuff that seems like it's in the way, and there's just like all this work to get stuff that's out of the way, and maybe a lot of healing, those kinds of things. It's, you know, I sometimes have found myself in really difficult spots where I need to remind myself, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. And you really can't ask yourself to do more than your best.
True.
I get over, go ahead. What?
That was so sensible, and yet it feels like it's going to be 20 years before I get to my 3-year plan. Like I don't like it's unsatisfying.
Yeah,
I mean,
course.
of course there's wisdom in those because we can't do more than we can do. And yet it feels like, really, it's going to be that slow?
No, I know you want to hit fast forward on it. I know you want to expedite it. And, you know, I get overwhelmed when I want to accomplish it all right now in this moment. That's when I feel overwhelmed. So that's when I remind myself that the only way to eat a hippopotamus sandwich is one bite at a time. You've got a big thing you're working with, whatever it is. There's a lot that you're working with, and be gentle with yourself. You're doing what you need to do by doing that part of the work.
But it feels
But
like postponing the joy. Like
I would caution you. But see, you're telling yourself a story that that this needs to be a prerequisite for that. And I invite you to live your dream life now, today. Like live your dream lifestyle today, tomorrow, the next day. And that might mean that you need to clear out all the crap too. But notice when you're telling yourself, oh, I have to put all that stuff off before I can do these things. I don't know if that's necessarily true. There might be a parallel simultaneous process that can be part of the whole thing for you.
Yeah, and maybe a more artful way to do that. I feel like I've stepped into a decision to want a bigger life, to step into a bigger vision, because I've actually been doing what you just suggested. I've just been like finding all the ways for joy now, and yet the things that need tending to make me free for the bigger thing, I don't put attention to because I'm just gonna do the things as they feel good now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I see in the thanks for that both and that I'm seeing in the
Well, and the other
chat.
thing
I
is
think that's
reach out for support, Amy. We have this terrible myth in our culture that we need to go it alone. And you don't need to go it alone.
it's an art finding the right support.
I get it.
Willing support,
I get it.
empathetic support.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is one place you can start asking.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Amy.
Heard. Will you say those three things again?
Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can.
Thank you.
Dawn had her hand up earlier, and then I think I want to wrap up the session.
Yeah, so I just wanted to tell people who might be interested in this that I'm so excited. I went to a question and answer session and I've been on fire since, because I took one of these courses that was only 8 weeks and created magic. I can only imagine having a whole year and having new tools and more time and being with like-minded people who all want to move forward in their lives and want everybody else. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Well, and with energy like that, it's going to be an awesome year. Thanks, Dawn. Start where you are. Use what you have and do what you can. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That was really beautiful, Alan.
Yeah, it was fun to be here with you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye for now. See you soon.